Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, step into the world of business for just a second with me. On the surface, right, it's all crisp contracts, big expansions, bold leaders, and yeah, always the bottom line. That's the stuff we see, the tangible things, fills the news, boardroom talks. But what if beneath all that polished stuff, there are these powerful kind of hidden currents, deep beliefs, cultural expectations, complex family stuff, things that don't just influence but really profoundly shape the whole professional landscape, sometimes in ways we just don't see right away. And that's exactly why we're here on the deep dive. You trust us with your sources, could be articles, new research, even like personal notes. And our job, our mission is to dig in and find those surprising bits of knowledge, those insights. It's not just about facts, though. It's connecting the dots, showing you the unexpected links, helping you get a well-rounded, nuanced understanding. Think of it as your journey to being genuinely well-informed, with those aha moments that make it all click.
Exactly. And for our deep dive today, we've got some really compelling source material. We're drawing a lot from these powerful excerpts from iThonga, Family Secrets and Business Battles. Think of it less like just a story and more like a window, a unique kind of portal, really, into a world where, well, intense personal drama, deeply held cultural beliefs, and high-stakes business ambitions all get tangled up in ways you definitely won't find in your standard business textbook. It gives us this invaluable lens to explore the very human, often unpredictable side of commerce.
Absolutely. So our mission for this deep dive, we're zeroing in on exactly that.
Yeah.
We're taking a close look at how traditional beliefs and modern business practices, with all their practicalities, the pressures, the focus on profit, how they don't just exist side by side, but how they often collide. Sometimes, yeah, spectacularly. Other times, they kind of merge in surprising ways. We're going to explore what happens when those deeply held cultural views meet the cold, hard demands of the bottom line, and how these forces can either, clash head on or maybe find these unexpected ways to move forward together. So yeah, buckle up. This should be quite illuminating.
The shadow of beliefs over business deals.
Okay, so our journey kicks off right in the moment of, real tension. It's pulled straight from the previously part of our source. We meet Makumalo. Clearly a woman with sharp business sense, very decisive. She's just announced this really bold move, right? A new business deal with a guy named Mtanzi. The goal, expanding their operations. Now, on the surface, this sounds totally normal. Forward-thinking business, the kind of strategic partnership talk you hear all the time in boardrooms, makes sense. But then, boom, the immediate reaction just shatters any idea that this is simple. Her husband, Mbongeni, he's clearly worried, very vocal about it, doesn't beat around the bush, tells her straight up, it's not a good idea. Right. Now, usually your mind jumps to money, right? Maybe Mtanzi's company's shaky or the market's bad.
Or logistics, maybe. Competitive pressure, something practical.
Exactly. But Makumalo, showing that resolve again, just insists it's happening. It's not a suggestion she's mulling over. It's like, this is the plan. And that immediate clash, it sets the stage. You just know this conflict has deeper roots than just economics. Something else is bothering Mbongeni.
And that initial exchange, it's like the perfect setup for the core tension we're digging into today. What's really striking is how this seemingly logical business decision expansion partnership instantly causes friction, not just professionally, but right there in the family. Deeply personal. Mbongeni's blunt, it's not a good idea. It's missing any, rational business argument, isn't it?
Totally. He doesn't mention financials, market analysis, hurdles, nothing.
And that absence, it's a huge signal. It points to something deeper, something non-economic driving his worry. It makes us think, okay, for him, judging this deal goes way beyond just profit potential. So for you listening, what does that initial discomfort suggest? Do you immediately think financial risk? Or does your gut tell you there's something invisible, an undercurrent that's more than just a bad deal waiting to happen?
Yeah, this is right where commerce starts to bump up against those really personal cultural beliefs. And what that something else might be, well, it becomes startlingly, almost chillingly clear in the very next scene we look at. The setting couldn't be more normal, almost deceptively ordinary. Mbongeni and Mahalfi are at a dining table, just having tea. It's an everyday thing, right? Domestic comfort. Which makes the conversation that unfolds, well, it makes it even more jarring because it's so extraordinary, almost supernatural.
Tea time, but definitely not a soothing conversation.
Not at all. It's Mahalfi who starts peeling back the layers. Reveals the real unsettling reason for the unease about Mtanzi. Her concern, you realize fast, has absolutely nothing to do with market share or balance sheets.
Nothing practical.
No. Her fear is deeply personal, and it's tied completely to a traditional belief system. She confronts Mbongeni with this absolute unwavering conviction. It honestly sends a shiver down your spine. She says, he bewitched her.
Wow, just like that.
Just like that. 3 words, and suddenly the whole business partnership is reframed. Chillingly. It's not just a risky deal anymore. In her eyes, it's like a sinister entanglement, shrouded in witchcraft.
That changes everything.
Completely. And the intensity, the sheer vividness of Malafi's belief, it's palpable. She doesn't just accuse him. She talks about this deeply unsettling personal encounter she had. Says she felt his, malevolent influence herself. She describes it with this chilling detail, saying, I felt my body go as cold as a dog's nose. I'm sure I was talking to a snake.
Whoa, that's visceral.
Isn't it? Imagine the terror in that memory, the conviction in her voice. For her, this wasn't some abstract idea. It was physical, real. And then she doubles down, states with total certainty that Natanzi wanted to bewitch me, but I was too strong for him. So he got Makumalo instead.
So she believes she fought him off, spiritually, and Makumalo was vulnerable.
Exactly. It's not vague suspicion for her. It's like she's giving an eyewitness account of spiritual warfare, and it's directly impacting her family member and, by extension, their business, their livelihood.
It really forces you to consider that within this story, there are these realities operating that just go beyond the purely material world. And this right here, this is where we hit that crucial point, that collision between traditional and modern. What's really fascinating is watching how this deeply rooted belief, witchcraft, is being directly applied to a modern business partnership, and how it's fundamentally messing with the bedrock of trust.
So how does Mabungini react? He must be thrown.
Well, his initial reaction is really telling. He kind of scoffs, right? Tries to dismiss it. Says something like, oh, Muffalo, please cut it out, baby. Please tone it down.
So trying to be rational, maybe? Keep things modern.
On one hand, yes. Trying to maintain that semblance of rationality, but then almost immediately there's this subtle shift, a concession maybe. He admits, yes, something is not quite right about Ntungo Elai.
Oh, okay. So not fully buying the witchcraft angle, but acknowledging something's off.
Exactly. It's not an outright agreement, but it is acknowledging that his own gut feeling, or maybe some deeper cultural understanding he hasn't quite articulated, feels that unease too. And even more significant, despite brushing her off initially, he tells Malafi, well, you're strong indeed. Yes, relax, I'll speak to Nintansi.
Speaking to Nintanzi, that feels like he's taking it somewhat seriously, even if he's not saying it.
That subtle concession is absolutely critical for us to understand. It strongly suggests that, beneath the outward skepticism, he's acknowledging her belief. Or maybe there's a flicker of his own underlying traditional views there.
Wow.
He might not be openly saying, I believe in witchcraft, but he's definitely not throwing the idea out completely either. It shows this incredibly complex juggling act between belief systems. And this immediately brings up a huge question, especially for anyone in cross-cultural business. How do you do due diligence? How do you even start to build a stable business alliance when one side genuinely believes the other is dealing in dark arts?
Right. How does that belief, whether everyone shares it or not, fundamentally change the decisions, or even just the willingness to move forward?
Think about how we usually assess risk in business, right? Financial risk, market risk, operational, reputational.
Yeah, the standard stuff.
But here, we're hit with this dimension of risk that traditional business models just aren't built to handle. Spiritual risk.
Spiritual risk. That's not on any checklist I've seen.
Exactly. In a context where spiritual influence is seen as real and potent, suddenly due diligence isn't just about financials. It includes these unquantifiable things like spiritual integrity. So conventional vetting. It becomes insufficient, maybe even irrelevant from Malafi's perspective.
Completely shifts the ground rules.
Totally. It shows how the very idea of risk assessment can be fundamentally different across cultures. Trust shifts from contracts and numbers to something, ethereal, rooted in ancient beliefs. How do you mitigate the risk of being bewitched? You can't insure against that. You can't negotiate it away. It's seen as an existential threat, beyond just bad press. And that's basically impossible to quantify in a business plan.
It's a fundamental clash of how people understand reality.
That's it. A clash of epistemologies, different ways of knowing. That's right at the heart of this conflict.
So what does all this mean for Makumalo's big expansion plan? If a key family member, Munkindini's wife no less, truly believes her new partner Nintanzi is sinister, maybe using dark arts, how does that actually impact the business trajectory?
Well, think about the practical side. What about Makumalo's professional reputation in her community, if these beliefs hold sway there?
Does it make her dealings with Nintanzi look suspicious to others? People who might share Makaloffi's views?
Potentially, yes. It creates this incredibly difficult tension. Professional ambition versus deep personal spiritual fear.
For Makumalalo, it's suddenly not just about profit or growth. It's about navigating a family divided by these fundamental beliefs, where trust isn't just financial transparency, but for some, it's about, what, spiritual purity.
It's a stark reminder, isn't it? Beneath the spreadsheets and contracts, it's humans dealing with this complex mix of visible and invisible forces.
And those invisible forces can have huge power over the visible world of business.
Redefining leadership in a traditional context.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Completely different setting. We move from that intimate dining table tension to something more communal, more outwardly traditional. Picture this. A group of men, they're gathered by a swimming pool, interestingly enough, sitting in a circle on these rough wooden stumps.
Sort of a mix of traditional seating and modern location?
Exactly. It immediately feels steeped in community, maybe even ritual. And among them, a man named Pablo stands up. He's dressed in traditional-inspired attire, the source says, addressing the group. The visual alone tells you, okay, we're in a space where tradition matters. A lot. It probably governs how they do things together.
And this group, they're identified as the Bonga Malofo Collective.
Yes. Apparently a well-known local collective, known for this commitment to communal success. And Pablo's opening words. They lay out the group's core belief system straight away. Very collectivist, rooted in shared prosperity, a strong traditional value. He says, expecting agreement. If one person wins, we all win. You know that, right?
Well, I agree.
Yeah, the men murmur agreement. It's this quiet confirmation of a deeply held principle. So it's not about cutthroat competition, individual gain. It's about shared success, where one person's achievement is seen in the context of benefiting the whole community, lifting everyone up.
Which stands in pretty stark contrast to a lot of modern capitalist models, right? Which often emphasize individualism, aggressive competition.
Totally. It's just a different way of valuing things, different definition of what winning even means in business.
And the implications of that communal philosophy, if one person wins, we all win, they're pretty profound when you compare it to individualistic capitalism. In a collectivist system like Bonga Malotho seems to be, maybe business strategies naturally lean towards long-term community benefit, sustainability over just short-term individual profit.
Makes sense. Less focus on just racing ahead alone.
Right. An internal competition. Maybe it's reframed not about beating each other, but more like collaborative problem solving. Working together on shared challenges for the group's good.
Pooling resources, maybe, instead of keeping them separate?
Could be. Pooling resources for collective projects, strengthening everyone's capacity. It echoes ideas you see in, like, stakeholder capitalism or community co-ops. Success isn't just shareholder returns, it's the well-being of everyone involved, employees, customers, the community.
So there are advantages to that model.
Definitely. It can build strong social bonds, resilience if one person struggles, and keeps wealth circulating locally. But there are potential challenges too, right? Especially when scaling up in a global economy where speed and individual drive are often rewarded.
Decision-making might be slower?
Possibly. Slower decisions, maybe less incentive for that kind of hypergrowth. It really forces us to think about how different cultural lenses define business success and what trade-offs exist between, say, community prosperity and individual wealth accumulation.
Okay, now here's where this narrative takes a really interesting turn. A key moment within this Benga Malotho collective. Pablo makes this truly significant announcement, clearly a groundbreaking moment for them. He singles out Makamalo, who's standing there before them. And he declares, with this tone that's like part acknowledgement, part maybe wonder. He says, something new and strange has happened. For us to have a woman leading one of the companies, it's Makamalo here in front of us. She's in charge of Magwaza Construction.
New and strange. That phrasing really jumps out.
Doesn't it? It's not just casual. It carries huge weight. It's this powerful admission that her leadership isn't just an achievement. It's a major departure from their established norms. It shatters this unspoken, ingrained status quo in this traditional-leaning, apparently male-dominated group.
Her being in charge of a construction company specifically, that feels significant too.
Right. It challenges those historical gender roles, societal expectations about who leads, especially in certain industries. But here's the key part. Despite saying it's strange, acknowledging it breaks tradition. Pablo doesn't just state it. He praises her, calls her determined and a history maker.
Wow. So validation from within that traditional structure itself, from a male leader.
Exactly. That's incredibly powerful. It suggests that, yeah, her position is strange because it's unprecedented, but it's also deeply respected, celebrated
For
easily.
its groundbreaking nature, and clearly for her undeniable competence. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, leadership, societal change, Makumalo isn't just running a company here. She's actively navigating this complex space where her modern business skills meet and maybe even reshape traditional gender roles within this community-based group that seems historically male. Her success is celebrated, yes, like you said, but calling it strange really highlights the cultural shift she represents. Which raises some big questions, doesn't it?
Like what?
Well, what unspoken norms is she challenging just by being there? We're not talking written rules, but those subtle, pervasive expectations about roles, abilities, stuff passed down for generations.
Is it just that women didn't lead publicly? Or specific industries like construction were seen as, men's territory?
Could be both. Her very presence challenges assumptions about who makes decisions, controls resources, who's the public face of the business, and then how does her success potentially open doors for others? How does it challenge those deeply ingrained societal expectations about who leads, who builds, who holds power?
By proving it can be done, setting a precedent.
Precisely. By showing exceptional merit and succeeding in a role seen as new and strange for a woman, she creates that precedent. She legitimizes women's leadership in similar traditional settings, might encourage other women, might gradually change men's perceptions of female competence, authority in business.
So she embodies both the tension and the potential for change.
Yes. The tension when tradition meets modernity, but also that potential for powerful, transformative evolution. Her achievement shows that even deep-rooted customs can adapt, often must adapt when faced with compelling merit and sheer determination.
It makes you think, doesn't it? About those invisible barriers,
Yeah.
the ones that made her leadership new and strange in the first place.
Yeah.
What kind of incredible resilience, what unwavering self-belief must she have needed, not just to break through, but to succeed so clearly that she's openly celebrated for it. It says so much about her drive, her competence, and it really illustrates that slow but undeniable evolution. Tradition meeting modernity in business. It shows that progress might be gradual, but it's often driven by individuals who aren't just good at what they do, but brave enough to challenge things. To prove merit wins out.
Well said.
But the story of her journey, as the source shows us, it doesn't just end there. With the triumph and the public praise at the meeting. In fact, it shifts immediately to this really powerful, kind of poignant scene. It highlights the ongoing struggle, often private, for independence and recognition, especially for people breaking new ground. The applause is barely over, right? The respect is still in the air. Yet as Makumalo and Baguni walk away from that meeting, she's visibly upset.
Despite the public validation.
Yeah, clearly frustrated. She says something that reveals this deep feeling, I've worked in this industry for years and I've never felt this way.
Speaks volumes about the personal cost, maybe. The emotional toll.
Seems like it. And then she confronts Mbonjeni directly. The same guy who was dismissing the witchcraft stuff earlier. She asks him this raw, loaded question. By humiliating me, Mbonjeni.
Humiliating her. How? What did he do at the meeting?
The source doesn't detail an action at the meeting itself, but implies his attitude or something related to his protection undermined her there, or perhaps immediately after. Mbonjeni tries to justify himself. His reasoning comes from that very traditional, almost patriarchal, protective place. He says, I was only trying to protect you from those men in Tanzi, and then adds, you don't know these guys, they're bad people.
Okay, so on the surface, it sounds like concern. A husband looking out for his wife.
Right, but the way he frames it, the implication that she's vulnerable needs his protection. It kind of strips her of her agency, her competence.
Especially right after she was publicly recognized as this powerful leader.
Exactly. It's such a stark clash. Her achieved status, her independence acknowledged by the group, versus his traditional view of her needing oversight.
It really exposes that friction when traditional roles collide with modern ambitions, even in the closest relationships.
Definitely.
And this is where Makumalo's rebuttal, her assertion of agency, independence, it really hits hard. A real moment of self-definition. She flat out rejects his premise, challenges his whole perception of her. She says, and you know them. Or maybe the person you don't know here is me.
Wow. That's powerful. It's like saying, you don't even see who I am anymore.
Exactly. It's a demand for him to reassess, to see her through a new lens, not the outdated one that fails to see her professional growth, her strength. And then she lays out her merit, her hard work so clearly. I worked hard for everything I have, Mbonjeni. I've never needed anyone's kindness. I'm not a child.
Oof. Direct hit against that paternalistic attitude.
Completely. It's this profound desire for recognition based squarely on her own capabilities, her experience, her success, not being seen as vulnerable or needing male oversight. She's claiming her place as an autonomous person whose achievements are hers, forged by her efforts. Not luck, not a gift.
It's the quintessential "I did this myself" statement.
Precisely. Self-efficacy. Professional autonomy. And this scene just perfectly captures that collision. Traditional gender roles, woman needs protection, versus a modern professional identity woman as independent, self-made leader. It really makes you ask, right? Is Mpongeni's protection purely genuine concern? Or is it also, maybe unconsciously, reflecting those deep traditional views? Views that see a woman in her position as inherently vulnerable, needing male oversight, even from her husband.
Can a relationship even handle that kind of fundamental clash? About identity, roles.
It's tough. Makumalo's response is this powerful assertion of her modern professional self, confronting those traditional undercurrents, not just in public, but crucially in her personal life, too. The tension shows that getting external recognition doesn't just magically fix internal personal conflicts shaped by culture.
It really makes you think, for you listening, how many times have good intentions or maybe perceived protection actually undermined someone's competence, their autonomy, in professional settings?
It's not unique to traditional contexts, is it?
No way. It plays out everywhere, especially where those traditional roles or unspoken power dynamics still subtly influence things. Think about the manager who micromanages, thinking they're protecting someone junior from mistakes, but really just stifles their growth.
Or colleagues underestimating a new leader because of age or gender, despite their qualifications being clear.
It's such a delicate balance, isn't it? Between showing respect for someone's abilities and accidentally holding them back with protection they don't need or want. Like Khumalo's words are just this potent, universal reminder. True support means recognizing and valuing someone's strength, their self-reliance, letting them lead their own way.
Outro. Wow, okay. What an exploration we've had today. Really fascinating ground covered. We've seen how intricate these connections are, traditional beliefs and modern business. We saw how beliefs like, well, witchcraft accusations can cast a real, tangible shadow over business deals, shaking trust in ways that go way beyond the financial numbers.
Definitely beyond the balance sheets. And then we saw the huge impact of women rising in leadership, actively challenging, reshaping those deep traditional community structures, gender roles, proving that, yeah, merit and determination can forge new paths, even if they seem new and strange at first to people used to the old ways.
And fundamentally, this is why we do these deep dives. It just reiterates such a crucial truth. The world of business. It's never just numbers, contracts, sterile profit margins. As we saw so clearly through iThonga, it's deeply human at its core, shaped intricately by cultural heritage, by personal beliefs, by how society itself is always evolving. These are the powerful, often invisible forces that frequently end up dictating success, failure, the dynamics inside organizations.
So as you go about your own professional world, we want to leave you with this final thought. Something to chew on, building on what we've unpacked today. What traditional undercurrents, maybe less obvious than a witchcraft claim or a ceremonial meeting, might be subtly shaping things around you? The decisions being made, the power dynamics, even how success is perceived.
Think about those unspoken rules, inherited expectations, ingrained cultural views that might be influencing the professional space you're in every day.
Always remember to look beyond the obvious, right? Beyond the surface stuff, the easy facts.
Because as we've explored today, sometimes the most profound influences on our professional lives, they come from the most unexpected places. Places where those ancient rhythms of tradition meet the relentless, always changing pace of modernity.
Thank you for joining us on this really enlightening journey today.